I'd like to share with you a story called Hindsight. And I wrote this for the KSQM Storytellers event, and everybody had to put a story together that involved hindsight. So this is my story, and since it wasn't archived on KSQM, I'm going to read it to you now. Okay, you ready? I've just arrived back in Squim after being on the road for nearly 2 years. There's just enough time before meeting friends to drive through my old neighborhood. Like I had done so many times before, I took a right by QFC, past the dog park, and a left on Alder Street. Down a couple blocks is my old rental house, with someone else's car parked in the driveway. The leaves on the maple trees are turning amber and starting to drop. The house next door has the same huge inflatable ghost as tall as the roof, giant plastic blow-up pumpkins, and a rotating light of various colors. I remember that light from 2 years ago, coming through my cheap bedroom blinds. The brightest light illuminated a cassette tape lying on the nightstand. Freedom by Stuart Wilde. I bought that cassette tape over 25 years ago because of the cover. It was a naked man running toward a snow-capped mountain, tossing off a prison jacket with a ball and chain lying in the dust behind him. He'd gotten rid of all of his belongings when he turned 60, and I was going to do the same thing. In my late 50s, I started getting rid of my stuff. It took almost a year to get rid of it all. The carved wooden statue of a girl reading a book. I liked holding it. It fit in my hand. An item like this would take an entire week of contemplation. Someone had given it to my mom. She didn't really like it. She didn't like it when I spent hours alone in my bedroom reading books. I tossed it in the giveaway box. The eggplant-colored massage chair I sat in almost every night just looked heavy to me now. My coffee table, shaped like an embryo, the metal stand that supported the glass top, went from a small spiral at one end to a large spiral at the other end. It was functional, and it was a work of art. I posted them both on Craigslist, and they were gone by the afternoon. I donated books to the Squim Library. As I packed each one, I wrote down the title and the main takeaway. Lifting the Veil of Duality by Andreas Moritz. The takeaway? How and why to live without judgment. Love Without Conditions by Paul Farini. The takeaway? We can let go of our attachment to our wounds. My wall of books was now condensed to a single sheet of paper. I sold my Ford Escape and bought a minivan that would become my home. I watched the Serenity House volunteers walk out the door with my queen-size bed and slide it into their moving van. My 4-inch organic twin-size mattress arrived later that same day. It fit perfectly on the bed frame built for the van. I took test drives to get used to sleeping in it. The first night, I parked outside my friend's condo in Port Townsend. It was quiet. I'd glance up at the lights in his living room from time to time. As the sun slowly disappeared, I stuffed the window coverings in each of the windows, plush lavender on the inside and black felt facing out. No one could see in, and from the outside, it looked like an ordinary soccer mom's van. I tested my pee bucket, a plastic Cool Whip container. My friend, who camped in her VW bus, turned me onto it, and it was quite surprising how well it worked. I never missed a drop. Tucked in my sleeping bag, I scrolled through the various screens on my iPhone, making sure I'd leave the battery charged to at least 50%. I ventured out, and soon I was sleeping in a grocery store parking lot in Fresno, various campgrounds in Nebraska and Montana, splurging on Airbnbs when I needed a soak in a real bathtub. I didn't realize I'd be in Mount Shasta for 2 months, or couch surfing in Tucson with a woman who opened her home to me just because she wanted to meet people. In hindsight now, I only miss one thing I gave away. That wooden statue of the girl reading a book. But not really. I am that girl, reading a new book, sitting on the extra van seat I pulled out of my storage unit. It's the only piece of furniture in my living room. A living room in my new house that overlooks the wild and flowing Dungeness River. And the van seat is right there.